Okay guys, got two champion generators here. Now these are inverter generators. Remember if you didn't watch my last video, I'll put a link at the end. We tested the output on 3 champion generators, a 1200 watt, a 3500 watt, and then a 7000 watt that were not inverter generators. We looked at the sine waves and were they dirty, was it dirty power, was it clean power? And so now we've got 2 inverter generators. One's a 2500 watt and one's a 4000 watt. Now these are peak watts, right? These are starting watts, this is not running watts. But those are peak watts, and we're going to look at the power on each of these and see what the waveform looks like. We're going to compare it to shore power, you know, like house power, regular electricity that comes out of your wall. We're going to compare it to that waveform, and then we're going to put loads on these as well, pretty much the same load we put on the last generators, and just see how they perform. So in here we have the same setup basically. We have our little oscilloscope here. We're going to plug it into shore power right here. That's what this is. This is plugged into the wall right over here. And then we're going to look at the waveform just for a baseline. But then we're going to put a load on. That's a 1500 watt oil heater. And then we have this grinder, which is more than the lights. If you remember in the last video, there were 500 watt lights. This is 980 watts, this 8 amp grinder. So 8 times 120 is 960 actually. So 960 watts, over 900 watts. That's pulling. So we're pulling about 2500 watts. So we're going to see what the waveform looks like on the 2500 watt because that might max that one out, and then on the 4000 watt. But I'm going to go ahead and plug this in here to the shore power just like we did before. And you can see the little waveform. So that's a nice clean waveform. Nice round troughs and nice round peaks, and there's no jaggediness. If you remember from the last video, a couple of those generators made pretty dirty power. Now what's interesting is the 3500 watt that had all the little sawtooths all up and down. If you remember that one actually ran our air conditioner on our RV, and we're about 6,000 feet here, 5,500, 6,000 feet where we were camping. And it did fine. So I was really surprised, and it even ran our Starlink Mini. So we had a Starlink Mini because we were in the backcountry. The Starlink Mini, so we can have internet and phone service, and we can make calls and get texts. And that's just super sweet. You just plug it in. We plugged that right into that generator, that dirty power. It ran that Starlink Mini just fine. So let's look at our generators now and see what we get. Okay, these are both brand new generators. So they both have been started and run for just a little while, like a few minutes. And they're super easy to start. Of course, they started right away, first start. Hope they don't make fools out of me right now. But on this one, we have to turn this to on, and that vents it. And then over here, we'll turn this from off, propane, gasoline, to choke. You don't have to prime it or anything, just a pull here. We'll turn it to gasoline. Now this carbon monoxide shield, you gotta sometimes point it in different directions in the wind. Sometimes the wind will throw the exhaust over the sensor and it'll cut it off. So just pay attention to that. All right, let's get this plugged in here. Pretty quiet, yeah? Let's go over here and see what kind of waveform we have. Oh wow, look at that. Wow, look at that. That is as clean as the shore power. Look at that. That's gorgeous waveform. Okay, there's the waveform where it's showing up and you're actually able to see more waves. All right, let's go ahead and power this heater on. And I'm gonna turn the heater on right now. And this is 1500 watts. Hear the generator pick up a little bit there. Waveform didn't change much. You can see it bobble a little bit there. That's medium. And we'll go to high now. That's 1500 watts. Oh, it's bogging down. Look at the waveform. It's kind of flattening it out. Look what happens when you're at kind of the max power delivery of the generator. Those waveforms, the trough flattened out and the peaks flattened out. I don't know if that's good or bad for electronics. We're going to turn it back to medium and see how they go back round again. That's pretty crazy. All right, we're not even gonna try the grinder. I was gonna run the heater and the grinder on this, but I know it's gonna shut the, well, let's just see what happens. It's science, right? All right, so the heater is on high now. That's 1500 watts. Here goes the grinder. Still trying, but that waveform got really kind of crappy there, didn't it? And you can hear I don't know if you can hear the generator, but it's kind of running, kind of bogging out. It's running, but it's bogging out. We'll turn that back to medium, back to low, and then off. Well, that's interesting. Now, was that eco mode? Let's just start it again and see. What if we take it off eco mode? Okay, let's try again. Okay, so our waveform looks about the same. Heater's coming on now, low, medium, high. Oh, well, without eco mode, it actually does pretty good there, doesn't it? It's not bogging down as bad, it's still running good. All right, so the heater's on high, let's hit the grinder. Here's the grinder right here. Let's see what this does. Okay, same kind of thing. Without eco mode, it's handling the 1500 watt heater just fine. Okay, now it's time for the 4000 watt, and a little setup a little bit different, but the dial's pretty much the same. We've got off, propane, gasoline, and choke. So we'll just turn it over to choke real quick and make sure our breakers aren't tripped here. Now this one has a couple different plugs, couple 120 volt regular outlets. This is 120 volts also, but it's 25 amps it says. This is what we're used to run the air conditioner in the RV, and this works really well. So we should be ready to start. Here we go. Maybe it doesn't want the choke. Nope, it doesn't want the choke. Now we'll try this one again, just like the other one, on eco mode, and just see what it looks like. Okay, now that's beautiful power. That looks just like house shore power, right? So, all right, we're gonna turn the heater on here. Low, medium, high. Now that's 1500 watts. Here goes the grinder, ready? Okay, the waveform didn't change hardly at all, did it? That's pretty sweet. Okay, so what does this mean? You know, 2500 watt inverter generator did really well actually, considering we put 2500 watt load on it. That heater's 1500 watts and the grinder's almost 1000, so yeah, this wasn't a joke. And it still ran, but the waveform got kind of crappy looking, right? It didn't look real great. So does that harm electronics or not? I don't know. You know, let me know in the comments if you guys are electronics nerds. I'm not. I wish I was. I wish I understood this stuff better. But the bottom line is, I don't know if that really hurts anything. Obviously, this is straining, and it's probably not good for the the generator head inside itself if it's struggling to make power like that. So just that operating these at maximum power where they're struggling to run probably is not a good idea for the generator, and maybe not for your electronics. Now this one obviously handled the load really well. 2500 watts. It really didn't even bobble or increase its RPMs or anything on eco mode or off eco mode. Now obviously on eco mode this one struggled because eco mode runs a lower RPM, and so it's quieter and sips, uses less fuel. But this one seemed to handle it with both. Now 4000 watts, this is going to use more fuel than this one. The great thing about this one is if you just need to run your fridge or your freezer in a power outage, keep from losing your food, and maybe charge your phones or something, or run some lights, this thing's perfect. But this will run about 8-10 hours on a gallon of gas, and it'll run close to 24 hours on a 20-pound tank of propane, a 5-gallon tank of propane. That's what they advertise. So I haven't tested that, but that's what they advertise. This one I'm not sure about how long it runs, but it's obviously a bigger engine, more watts. It's going to suck more fuel. So for a minor power outage where you're just trying to keep the basics going, that's smart because you'll use less fuel, you use less propane, you'll be able to run it longer in case the power outage goes for a long time. That thing is probably the best thing for long-term survival than something that's big like this or even bigger than this. Now, as far as this handling the load, 2500 watts, not a big deal for it. Now what's interesting is we took this one camping last weekend with the RV, and we ran the air conditioner because it was blazing hot. It was like 100 degrees at the lake. So we had to cool the camper off a couple of times. But this did fine with all the other electronics. We turned the fan on for the air conditioner, but when the compressor kicked on, that's when this one really bogged down. It acted like it was going to die a couple times. And we'd shut the air conditioner off. The RPMs would come back up on this, and then we'd restart it, and then they would run fine. But that first load was super demanding on this and really bogged it down. And maybe that's an example of how if the power's cleaner, even though it's less power, maybe the electronics like that better and they can be more efficient and not suck as much wattage if the power's cleaner. I don't know. You guys let me know in the comments. Be sure to go back and watch this video. It was a lot of fun. There's a lot of crazy power waveforms we got out of this one. The other two non-inverter generators, so that was fun. All right, guys. Again, I'm no expert at any of this. I just plug things in, and if it works, great. If it doesn't work, great. It's fun looking at the waveforms, but I don't really know what that exactly means. Any of you experts out there know more about this than I do, please comment in the comments. Let us know what's going on with these and what your thoughts are in your experience. I'd love to hear from you. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.